In the far reaches of the galaxy, where stars burned like ancient lanterns and planets floated in silence, there existed a world unlike any other. It was called Zyora, a planet cloaked in shimmering mists that danced under twin suns. The inhabitants of this realm were known throughout the cosmos for their beauty, strength, and unyielding spirit. The warrior women of Zyora. They were tall, lithe beings with skin that glimmered faintly as though kissed by starlight. Their hair flowed like liquid silver or fiery copper, depending on their mood, and their eyes held galaxies within them, deep pools of swirling colors that could pierce through the bravest soul. Among these formidable warriors stood Irina, a name whispered in awe across battlefields and council halls alike. She was not just beautiful but also deadly, her skills unmatched even among her own kind. Her spear, forged from the rarest metals mined deep beneath Zylora's surface, gleamed with an inner light, its tip sharp enough to cut through steel, or so legend claimed. Irina had earned her reputation not only through sheer prowess but also because she never hesitated to challenge anyone who dared question her authority. To meet her gaze was to feel both admiration and terror at once. On the other side of the universe lay Earth, a small blue-green, teeming with life and chaos. Among its many inhabitants was Kale, a man whose life had been shaped by conflict. Born into a family of soldiers, he grew up learning how to wield weapons before most children learned how to write. His muscles bore the scars of countless battles, each one telling a story of survival against overwhelming odds. Yet what set Kale apart wasn't merely his physical strength. It was his quick mind and unwavering determination. He had faced armies, beasts, and machines designed to crush him. And yet, here he still stood. Kale's journey had brought him far from home, chasing rumors of alien encounters and mysterious artifacts hidden in forgotten corners of space. Some said he sought glory, others believed he craved adventure. But those who truly knew him understood that Kale fought for something deeper, a yearning to find purpose beyond the endless cycle of war. Little did he know that his search would lead him straight into the path of destiny, where two worlds would collide, and two warriors would cross paths in ways neither could have imagined. The day began quietly aboard Kale's battered spaceship, the Iron Resolve, a patchwork vessel held together more by willpower than engineering. It groaned softly as it drifted towards Zyora, guided by coordinates etched onto a piece of ancient parchment. Kale leaned over the console, squinting at readings flashing across the screen. "This thing better be worth it," he muttered under his breath, scratching the stubble on his chin. He'd heard whispers about Zyora, a place shrouded in myth and danger, but nothing prepared him for what lay ahead. As the misty atmosphere enveloped the ship, alarms blared suddenly. Red lights pulsed across the cockpit, accompanied by an urgent robotic voice declaring, "Unidentified objects approaching." Before Kale could react, sleek fighter craft streaked past his viewport, weaving gracefully like birds hunting prey. Each craft was piloted by one of Zylora's famed warrior women, clad in armor that shimmered like molten gold. One of them broke formation and sped directly toward the Iron Resolve, firing warning shots that scorched the hull. "Great," Kale grumbled, gripping the controls tightly. "Just what I needed, a welcoming committee." With no time to waste, he activated evasive maneuvers, sending the ship spiraling away from the attackers. The Iron Resolve creaked and groaned under the strain, protesting every twist and turn. But Kale didn't let up. He'd faced worse odds back on Earth. Meanwhile, Irina sat poised in her fighter, her spear strapped securely to her side. She watched the humans' erratic movements with growing curiosity. Most intruders either fled outright or panicked when confronted by Zyloran forces. This one, however, seemed oddly calm despite the chaos unfolding around him. Intrigued, she signaled her squadron to hold fire momentarily. If the stranger thought he could outmaneuver her people, she wanted to see exactly what he was made of. Back inside the Iron Resolve, Kale realized dodging wasn't going to cut it forever. The ship's shields flickered dangerously low, and another direct hit might tear it apart entirely. Spotting an opening between two pursuing fighters, he accelerated sharply, aiming to break free of their encirclement. Just as he veered hard to port, one of the Zyloran pilots swung wide, cutting off his escape route. It was Irina herself, her golden armor gleaming even brighter against the backdrop of the planet's swirling skies. She raised her hand, signaling her squadron to stand down once more. Then, with precision honed over decades of combat, she launched her spear, not at the ship itself but directly toward its cockpit window. Time seemed to slow as the weapon hurtled through the air, trailing sparks behind it. Inside, Kale saw the projectile coming and acted instinctively. Throwing himself forward, He caught the spear mere inches from his face, his fingers closing around its glowing shaft with surprising ease. For a moment, everything went silent. Even the hum of engines faded into the background as Irina stared, dumbfounded, at the human who now held her prized weapon in his grasp. No one, not a single adversary she'd ever faced, had dared to catch her spear mid-flight. It was unheard of, impossible, and yet here he was, gripping it firmly as though it weighed no more than a feather. Her first reaction was anger. Who was this insolent creature, daring to defy her? But then something shifted in her expression. There was no fear in his eyes, only a quiet confidence that unsettled her. For all her years of training and battle experience, Irina couldn't recall the last time someone had genuinely surprised her, and surprise quickly gave way to intrigue. Kale, meanwhile, wasn't sure whether to feel proud or terrified. Holding the spear felt strange. It pulsed faintly in his hand, almost alive, and he wondered if letting go might trigger some sort of self-destruct mechanism. Still, he met Irina's gaze head-on, refusing to flinch. "Guess we're done playing chicken?" he quipped, his tone laced with humor despite the tension crackling in the air. Irina tilted her head slightly, studying him with those galaxy-spanning eyes. There was something about him, his boldness, perhaps, or the fact that he hadn't tried to destroy her ship, that intrigued her. Slowly, deliberately, she extended her hand, gesturing for him to return the spear. Kale hesitated for a beat, then tossed it back with a casual flick of his wrist. It landed neatly in her waiting grip, its glow dimming slightly as if acknowledging its mistress's touch. Instead of retaliating, Irina simply hovered there, her fighter casting a long shadow over the iron resolve. After a pause that stretched longer than either of them expected, she spoke, for the first time since their encounter began. Her voice came through the comm system, smooth and melodic yet carrying an edge of authority. "You are brave, human, or foolish, perhaps both." Kale chuckled nervously, rubbing the back of his neck. "Well, ma'am, bravery and foolishness often look alike until you survive long enough to tell the difference." To his astonishment, Irina laughed, a rich, musical sound that echoed through the cockpit. "Perhaps," she replied, her tone softening ever so slightly. "But few have survived my spear. Fewer still have caught it." She paused, her gaze lingering on him as though trying to decipher a puzzle. "Land your ship. We shall speak further." With that, she turned her fighter and sped away, leaving Kale alone with his thoughts, and the gnawing suspicion that his life was about to change forever. After landing the iron resolve on a designated platform carved into the side of a crystalline mountain, Kale stepped out cautiously, his boots crunching against the glassy surface. The air smelled sweet, almost floral, tinged with the faint metallic tang of energy fields surrounding the area. Around him, the landscape shimmered like liquid mercury, reflecting the twin suns' golden light in dazzling patterns. Despite the breathtaking beauty, Kale kept his guard up. He'd seen too many picturesque places turn deadly without warning. Moments later, a procession emerged from the horizon, led by none other than Irina. She walked with the grace of a predator, her golden armor catching the sunlight in a way that made her seem otherworldly. Behind her marched several other warrior women, their expressions unreadable but undeniably fierce. Each carried a weapon slung over their shoulders, though none appeared ready to draw them, at least not yet. "Well," Kale murmured to himself, squaring his shoulders. "Here goes nothing." He met Irina halfway, stopping just a few paces away. Up close, she was even more striking. Her skin shimmered faintly, and her eyes seemed to hold entire universes within them. For a brief second, he forgot why he was here, lost in the sheer presence of someone so extraordinary. "You have courage," Irina said finally, breaking the silence. "But courage alone does not explain why you trespass on Zyora." Her voice carried no malice, only curiosity tempered by caution. Kale cleared his throat, aware of the weight of dozens of eyes on him. "I'm looking for something," he admitted. "An artifact, maybe. Something old, powerful. Your planet's mentioned in stories back home. Thought it was worth checking out." Irina arched an eyebrow, a gesture that somehow managed to convey skepticism and amusement simultaneously. "Stories?" she repeated, her lips curling into a faint smile. "You risk your life based on tales? Hey, don't knock folklore." Kale shot back with a grin. "Some of the best adventures start with once upon a time." When Irina didn't respond immediately, he added, "Besides, I've got a knack for surviving impossible situations. Guess today proves that again." The corner of Irina's mouth twitched upward, though she quickly schooled her features into neutrality. Still, Kale noticed the subtle shift and filed it away as a small victory. Humor apparently worked on aliens too. "Come," Irina said after a moment, turning on her heel. "If you seek knowledge, you must meet our elders. They will decide your fate." Kale followed her, flanked by the other warriors. As they moved through the crystalline city, he marveled at the architecture. Structures that seemed to grow organically from the ground, blending seamlessly with the natural environment. Streams of glowing liquid flowed like veins through the streets, illuminating everything in soft hues of blue and green. The air buzzed faintly, charged with energy that prickled against his skin. "So," Kale ventured, glancing sideways at Irina, "do all visitors get the royal treatment, or am I special?" Irina glanced back at him, her expression inscrutable. "Most visitors do not survive long enough to receive any treatment," she replied evenly. "Consider yourself fortunate." "Oh, I'll try," Kale said dryly, earning another near-imperceptible smirk from Irina. Progress, he thought. Maybe. Their destination turned out to be a massive dome-like structure perched atop the highest peak. Inside, the walls were lined with intricate carvings depicting scenes of battles, celestial events, and what looked like ancient rituals. At the center of the room sat a circle of elder Zylorans, their silvery hair flowing freely down their backs. Unlike the younger warriors, they radiated wisdom rather than raw power, their eyes filled with patience and understanding. Irina approached the elders and bowed deeply before stepping aside to let Kale take center stage. One of the elders, a woman with hair that shimmered like moonlight, regarded him with piercing violet eyes. "Human?" she began, her voice resonating like a melody. "Why do you disturb the peace of Zyora?" Kale swallowed hard, suddenly aware of how ridiculous his quest might sound. "I'm searching for answers," he said honestly. "About where we come from, where we're going. About connection. Yours is one of the oldest civilizations in the galaxy. I thought maybe you'd have clues." The elder exchanged glances with her companions, who nodded silently. Finally, she turned back to Kale. "Your intentions are pure, though your methods leave much to be desired," she said, her tone gentle but firm. "If you wish to learn, you must prove yourself worthy." Before Kale could ask what that entailed, Irina stepped forward. "Allow me to oversee his trial," she offered, her voice steady. "He has already demonstrated skill and wit. Let us see if he possesses the heart of a true warrior." The elder studied Irina for a long moment before nodding. "Very well. Take him to the trial grounds. May the stars guide his path." As they left the dome, Kale couldn't help but feel a mix of dread and excitement bubbling in his chest. "So, he said, jogging to keep pace with Irina. "What exactly happens at these trial grounds?" Irina cast him a sidelong glance, her lips curving into a sly smile. "You will face challenges that test your strength, your mind, and your resolve. Survive, and you may earn our respect. Fail?" She trailed off, leaving the implication hanging heavy in the air. Kale grinned despite himself. "Sounds fun. Lead the way, warrior princess." Irina stopped abruptly, turning to face him with a raised eyebrow. "Princess? It's a compliment," Kale protested, raising his hands defensively. "Trust me, where I come from, that's high praise." For the first time since they'd met, Irina threw her head back and laughed, a sound so genuine and warm that it took Kale's breath away. "Then I suppose I should thank you," she said, her voice lighter than before. "Now move, human, before I change my mind about guiding you." And with that, they set off toward the trial grounds, neither of them realizing how much this journey would change them both. The trial grounds were unlike anything Kale had ever encountered, a sprawling expanse of shifting terrain that seemed alive in its unpredictability. Jagged cliffs rose and fell like waves frozen mid-motion, while rivers of molten light snaked through the landscape, casting eerie shadows that danced across the ground. Above, the twin suns blazed fiercely, their combined heat making the air shimmer as though reality itself were melting. It was beautiful, terrifying, and utterly alien. Irina led him to the starting point, a circular arena marked by runes etched into the crystal floor. Around them, other Zyloran warriors gathered, watching silently with arms crossed and expressions unreadable. The tension in the air was palpable, thick enough to slice with a blade. Kale cracked his knuckles nervously, trying to ignore the weight of so many eyes on him. "So," he said, attempting to lighten the mood, "is there a rulebook, or do I just wing it?" Arena gave him a wry smile, though her tone remained serious. The trials adapt to the challenger. You will face 3 tests: strength, cunning, and endurance. Pass all 3, and you earn the right to continue your quest. Fail? She let the sentence hang unfinished, her meaning clear. Got it? Kale replied, rolling his shoulders. No pressure, right? Without another word, Arena raised her hand, and the ground beneath them trembled. From the edges of the arena, massive stone constructs began to rise, taking the shape of towering humanoid figures armed with clubs as large as tree trunks. These weren't mere statues. They moved, their stone limbs grinding against each other with ear-splitting groans as they lumbered toward Kale. Well, this can't be good, Kale muttered under his breath. He glanced at Arena, who stood calmly nearby, arms folded. Any tips? Stay alive, she said simply, her galaxy-spanning eyes glinting with amusement. The first construct swung its club downward with enough force to pulverize rock. Kale dove out of the way just in time, rolling to his feet as the ground cracked beneath the impact. Heart pounding, he scanned the area for anything he could use as a weapon. Nearby, a shard of obsidian-like material jutted from the ground. Grabbing it, he tested its weight. It was sharp enough to cut through flesh but sturdy enough to parry blows. The second construct charged next, closing the distance faster than Kale anticipated. Dodging proved impossible this time, so he braced himself, using the shard to deflect the swing. Sparks flew as metal met stone, and the vibration nearly knocked him off his feet. Gritting his teeth, Kale struck back, driving the shard into a joint where the construct's arm connected to its torso. With a deafening screech, the limb detached, falling to the ground with a crash. Encouraged, Kale pressed his advantage, darting between the remaining constructs and targeting weak points. But the creatures were relentless. Every strike weakened them, but they didn't stop coming. Sweat poured down Kale's face as exhaustion set in, his muscles screaming in protest. Just when he thought he couldn't hold out any longer, inspiration struck. Spotting a fissure in the ground created by one of the earlier impacts, he lured the last construct toward it. Timing his move perfectly, he dodged its final swing, causing it to stumble forward and fall into the chasm with a thunderous roar. Panting heavily, Kale turned to face Arena, who nodded approvingly. Not bad, she admitted. But strength is only part of being a warrior. The second trial began almost immediately, transporting Kale and Arena to a labyrinthine forest bathed in twilight. Towering trees with bioluminescent leaves formed an intricate maze, their roots twisting like serpents across the ground. The air was cool and damp, filled with the scent of moss and earth. Somewhere in the distance, faint whispers echoed, as though the very forest were alive and watching. This is your test of cunning, Arena explained, her voice barely above a whisper. Find the exit before the labyrinth collapses. Trust your instincts, but beware illusions. Kale frowned, scanning the surroundings. Illusions, huh? Great. Because nothing says fun like getting lost in a haunted forest. Ignoring his sarcasm, Arena disappeared into the shadows, leaving him alone. Determined not to panic, Kale started walking, keeping one hand on the hilt of his makeshift weapon. The whispers grew louder as he moved, forming words that twisted his thoughts. Turn back, they urged. You'll never make it. Shaking his head, he focused on the path ahead, trusting his gut to guide him. At one point, he stumbled upon a clearing where a figure resembling Arena stood, beckoning him forward. Suspicious, Kale hesitated, noticing inconsistencies in her appearance. The glow of her armor was too dim, her eyes lacked depth. Realizing it was a trick, he stepped back, and the illusion dissolved into mist. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time felt distorted here. Finally, Kale spotted a faint glow in the distance. Pushing through fatigue and frustration, he reached the source, a portal of shimmering light framed by ancient runes. Stepping through, he found himself back in the arena, where Arena waited with an approving nod. 2 down, she said. 1 to go. The third trial was the hardest yet. A barren desert stretching endlessly under a blood-red sky. Sandstorms whipped across the dunes, obscuring vision and tearing at exposed skin. The temperature fluctuated wildly, alternating between blistering heat and freezing cold. Supplies were non-existent, and Kale quickly realized this wasn't just a test of physical endurance but mental resilience as well. For hours or days, he lost count. He trudged onward, driven by sheer stubbornness. Hunger gnawed at his stomach, Thirst parched his throat, and exhaustion threatened to pull him into unconsciousness. Yet every time he considered giving up, he remembered Irina's piercing gaze and the challenge she'd issued. Failure wasn't an option. When he finally collapsed at the edge of an oasis, he thought it might be another illusion. But the water was real, cool and refreshing as it slid down his throat. Dragging himself upright, he followed the stream until it led him back to the arena, where Irina stood waiting. "You've done well," she said, her voice softer now. "Few outsiders have completed the trials." Kale managed a weak grin. "Thanks. Next time, maybe warn me about the apocalypse-level sandstorms." Irina laughed, the sound echoing warmly in the stillness. "Perhaps." As they returned to the crystalline city, neither spoke of what had changed during those trials, but something undeniably had. Over the following weeks, Kale found himself spending more time with Irina than he'd initially expected. While the elders deliberated over his request to access Zylora's ancient archives, she took it upon herself to teach him about her culture, language, and history. At first, their interactions were formal, almost clinical. Irina explaining the significance of sacred relics or demonstrating traditional combat techniques, while Kale listened intently, jotting notes in a worn leather journal. But as days turned into nights, shared laughter and stolen glances began to chip away at the barriers between them. One evening, after a particularly grueling sparring session, Kale collapsed onto the grassy slope overlooking the city. Irina joined him moments later, her usual regal demeanor softened by the fading light of the twin suns. "You're improving," she remarked, her tone teasing but sincere, "though you still rely too much on brute force." Kale chuckled, wiping sweat from his brow. "Yeah, well, subtlety isn't exactly my strong suit. Besides, I think I'm doing pretty well considering I'm learning from the best." Irina tilted her head, her galaxy-spanning eyes narrowing playfully. "Flattery won't save you from another round tomorrow." "Who says I need saving?" Kale shot back, earning a rare laugh from her. He liked the sound. It reminded him of distant stars twinkling in the night sky. Their conversations gradually deepened, moving beyond tactics and traditions to personal stories and dreams. Irina spoke of her childhood, growing up among the warrior clans and proving herself in battle after battle. Kale shared tales of Earth, describing its chaotic beauty and the people who shaped his journey. They discovered common ground in their love for exploration and their desire to understand the universe's mysteries. Yet beneath the camaraderie lingered unspoken tension. Kale couldn't deny the growing admiration he felt for Irina, not just for her strength and skill, but for her compassion and wisdom. And though she never admitted it aloud, Irina found herself drawn to Kale's resilience and humor, qualities that made him stand out amidst the stoic warriors of Zylora. One afternoon, while exploring a secluded valley dotted with luminescent flowers, Irina paused, her expression unusually somber. "Do you ever wonder," she began hesitantly, "if we're meant to follow different paths? Humans and Zylorans, I mean." Kale frowned, sensing the weight behind her words. "Maybe, but sometimes paths cross for a reason. Why waste the opportunity to learn from each other?" Irina gazed at him, her emotions flickering across her face like ripples on water. "You speak wisely for someone who claims to lack subtlety." Kale grinned, nudging her lightly with his elbow. "Guess I'm full of surprises." For a moment, they simply stood there, surrounded by the soft glow of the valley. Neither voiced the feelings stirring within them, but the silence said enough. Whatever lay ahead, they knew their lives had changed irrevocably, and neither regretted it. As days blurred into weeks, Kale's presence on Zylora sparked debates among the warrior women. Some admired his tenacity and the unique perspective he brought to their society, while others viewed him as an outsider who disrupted the delicate balance of their traditions. Whispers echoed through the crystalline corridors, questioning whether allowing a human to stay, even temporarily, was wise. Yet amidst the division, one undeniable truth emerged. Kale had earned respect, not through grand gestures but through consistent actions that reflected both courage and humility. His relationship with Irina became a focal point of discussion. While many questioned the wisdom of such a bond, others saw it as proof of Zylora's openness to growth and change. Irina herself navigated these waters carefully, balancing her duty to her people with her growing feelings for Kale. She introduced him to sacred ceremonies, teaching him dances that told stories older than time and songs that resonated with the heartbeat of the planet. In return, Kale shared Earth's customs, from simple campfire meals to impromptu storytelling sessions that left her warriors laughing until tears streamed down their faces. Despite occasional friction, Kale adapted remarkably well to Zyloran life. He learned to read the subtle shifts in the mists that signaled weather changes, mastered basic phrases in their melodic language, and even picked up the art of crafting spears from the rare metals mined beneath the mountains. His humor, once a source of confusion, became a bridge between cultures, breaking tense moments with timely jokes that disarmed even the sternest warriors. Still, challenges arose. During a gathering to celebrate the harvest moon, a senior warrior named Sorella openly challenged Kale's place among them. "We are guardians of this world," she declared, her voice ringing through the assembly hall. "What purpose does a human serve here? He cannot protect us as we protect ourselves." Kale stepped forward, meeting her gaze without flinching. "I'm not here to replace anyone," he said calmly. "But if sharing my experiences helps strengthen your defenses, or gives you new ways to face threats, then isn't that worth considering?" Sorella's eyes narrowed, but before she could retort, Irina intervened. "Enough," she commanded, her tone leaving no room for argument. "Kale has proven his worth through the trials and continues to contribute to our community. Questioning his presence serves no one." The tension dissipated slowly, replaced by murmurs of agreement. Over time, Kale's efforts won over even skeptics like Sorella, who begrudgingly acknowledged his value after witnessing his ingenuity during a simulated attack drill. When a malfunctioning defense system threatened to expose the city to invaders, Kale devised a workaround using salvaged parts from his ship, buying precious minutes for repairs. It was a small act, yet it cemented his role as an ally rather than an outsider. Through it all, Kale and Irina grew closer, their bonds strengthening with each shared triumph and challenge. Whether debating philosophy under the twin suns or sparring in the training grounds, they found joy in their differences and unity in their shared goals. Though neither voiced it aloud, the connection between them deepened, becoming something neither could or wanted to deny. One fateful morning, the tranquility of Zylora was shattered by an ominous rumble that reverberated through the planet's core. The crystalline structures quivered, and the shimmering mists darkened ominously, swirling with an unnatural ferocity. Alarms blared across the city, summoning warriors to their stations as reports flooded in from the outer perimeter. A massive fleet of unknown origin had entered Zylora's orbit, its ships unlike anything the warrior women had encountered before. Sleek and angular, they exuded an aura of menace, their surfaces matte black and devoid of markings. Irina stood at the forefront of the command center, her spear glowing brighter than ever as she analyzed the incoming data. Beside her, Kale studied holographic projections of the enemy vessels, his brow furrowed in concentration. "These aren't raiders," he muttered, tapping a finger against his chin. "They're organized, strategic. They seek conquest," Irina confirmed grimly, "and they will stop at nothing to achieve it." The invaders wasted no time. Within minutes, dropships descended like vultures, deploying legions of mechanized drones equipped with advanced weaponry. The Zyloran warriors mobilized swiftly, forming defensive lines around key locations. Spears clashed with plasma blades, and the air crackled with energy as both sides unleashed their full might. Despite their superior numbers, the invaders pressed forward relentlessly, their machines seemingly immune to fear or fatigue. Kale joined the fray alongside Irina, wielding a modified version of her spear design, a fusion of Zyloran craftsmanship and Earth engineering. Together, they carved through ranks of drones, their movements synchronized as though choreographed. Yet for every drone destroyed, two more took its place. The tide of battle shifted dangerously, threatening to overwhelm even the most skilled warriors. Realizing brute force alone wouldn't win the day, Kale shouted over the din, "We need to target their command units. Disable those, and the rest will falter." Irina nodded sharply, relaying the strategy to her troops via comms. Splitting into smaller squads, the warriors executed precise strikes against key nodes, crippling the invaders' coordination. Kale and Irina led one such team, fighting their way toward a towering mech that loomed over the battlefield like a colossus. Its weapons fired indiscriminately, leveling everything in its path. Reaching the mech required navigating a gauntlet of hazards, including collapsing structures and waves of reinforcements. At one point, a stray blast knocked Kale off his feet, sending him sprawling. Kale hit the ground hard, the impact knocking the wind out of him. For a moment, he lay there, dazed, as the chaos of battle raged around him. Arina turned back instantly, her eyes widening in alarm. Without hesitation, she leapt toward him, deflecting a volley of plasma bolts with her spear before extending a hand to pull him up. "Stay focused," she barked, though concern laced her voice. "I'm fine," Kale grunted, brushing himself off and gripping his weapon tighter. "Let's finish this." With renewed determination, they pressed forward, their movements fluid and instinctive. The towering mech loomed closer now, its metallic limbs smashing through buildings and sending debris raining down. Kale spotted an exposed control panel on its torso, a weak point. He pointed it out to Arina, who nodded sharply. "You distract it," she commanded. "I'll get inside." Before Kale could argue, Arina darted away, using the wreckage as cover while she closed the distance to the mech. Kale, meanwhile, unleashed everything he had, firing salvos from a makeshift energy rifle he'd cobbled together during his time on Zyora. The blasts pinged harmlessly off the mech's armor at first, but they succeeded in drawing its attention. Its massive head swiveled toward him, glowing red optics locking onto his position. "Oh, great!" Kale muttered under his breath as the mech raised one of its enormous fists. He rolled just in time to avoid being crushed, the shockwave from the impact rippling through the ground beneath him. From the corner of his eye, he saw Arina scale the mech's leg with breathtaking agility, her spear glowing brighter with every step. She reached the control panel and plunged her weapon into the mechanism, sparks flying as circuits overloaded. The mech let out a mechanical roar, its movements becoming erratic as systems failed. With one final burst of light, the machine collapsed, shaking the earth violently as it fell. Cheers erupted from the Zyloran warriors nearby, their spirits buoyed by the victory. But Kale knew better than to celebrate too soon. The invaders' fleet still hovered menacingly above, and more dropships were descending. This was far from over. Arina rejoined him, her chest heaving but her expression resolute. "Good work," she said simply, acknowledging their teamwork. "We're not done yet," Kale replied grimly, scanning the horizon. "But we can win this, if we keep hitting them where it hurts." Together, they regrouped with the other warriors, coordinating another assault. Using the same tactics, targeting command units and exploiting weaknesses, they slowly turned the tide of the battle. The invaders' forces began to falter, their once impenetrable lines breaking under the relentless pressure of the Zyloran warriors. As the last wave of drones was neutralized, silence fell over the battlefield. The surviving warriors stood amidst the wreckage, their faces streaked with sweat and grime but alight with triumph. Kale looked to Arina, who gazed skyward at the retreating alien fleet. They had won for now. In the days that followed, Zylora began to rebuild. The scars of the invasion would linger, but so too would the lessons learned. Kale's ingenuity and adaptability had proven invaluable, earning him a permanent place among the warrior women. No longer seen as merely an outsider, he was now regarded as a trusted ally, and something more. For Arina, the bond she shared with Kale had deepened into something profound. Their connection transcended worlds, blending strength and vulnerability, humor and wisdom. Though neither spoke of the future openly, both knew their paths were intertwined. One evening, as they stood together on a ridge overlooking the shimmering city, Arina broke the quiet. "You've changed us, Kale. Changed me. And you've shown me what true courage looks like," Kale replied, meeting her gaze. "I came here searching for answers, but I think I found something even better." Arina smiled softly, her galaxy-spanning eyes reflecting the twin suns setting behind them. "Perhaps our destinies were always meant to cross." "Maybe," Kale said with a grin. "Or maybe it's just proof that sometimes the best adventures happen when you least expect them." As the stars emerged one by one in the velvet sky, casting their ancient light upon Zylora, Kale and Arina stood side by side, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, together.